Okay, this video is on equations of lines. There are three forms of a line. There's standard form, slope-intercept form, and point-slope form. Standard form is ax plus by equals c. B and c are integers. A is also an integer, but it's a non-negative integer. So in other words, a must be positive. And a and b are both not zero. Okay. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is a real number representing the slope, and b is a real number representing the y-intercept. And the third form, we won't really use too much in this video. It is another method, but I'm going to use the slope-intercept form in this video. So point-slope form, there may be another video coming on that form. Okay, so let's talk about how to change from one form to the other. Let's take a line such as y equals 3x plus 5. That is in slope-intercept form. What if we want to write it in standard form? Well, standard form is the x and y are both on the left-hand side. So if we want to write that in standard form, you would have to move the 3x over to the left-hand side. So subtract 3x on both sides. That would give you negative 3x plus y equals 5. Now there's also another condition that a must be non-negative. That means it has to be positive. So let's multiply both sides by -1, or multiply the -1 all the way through. So multiply by -1, that'll make it a positive 3x, but it'll change all the other sides too. So 3x minus y equals -5. That is the standard form. Here's our first example. Write the equation of the line that has the indicated slope. So the word slope, I know it starts with an S, but we use the letter M for slope. Probably in Latin, the word for slope starts with an M. That's my guess. And the y-intercept is b. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. It says express the final equation in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. All you need to do is replace the m with -3 and the b with -1. And you're all done. Y equals -3x minus 1. Okay, example 2. Write the equation of the line that has a slope m and a y-intercept b. Express the final equation in slope-intercept form. M equals 4, and the y-intercept is 0, 5. So m is 4, we have our m, and 0, 5, that's where it crosses the y-axis, 0, 5. That means b is 5. So we have the slope and the y-intercept. We're going to use the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So that'll be y equals 4x plus 5. Example 3. Write the equation of the line that has the indicated slope and contains the indicated point in slope-intercept form. Again, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. You're going to hear that a lot in this video. Y equals mx plus b. So here's our point, 2, 4, and our slope is 5, m equals 5. So again, y equals mx plus b. We know what m is, but we do not know what b is. So we do have x and y, the 2, 4. On a line, there's an infinite amount of points. We're just going to need this 1, 2, 4. The 2 represents x, and the 4 represents y. So replace those letters with the numbers we have. So replace x with 2, y with 4, and m with 5, and we're going to solve for b. Multiply the 5 times 2, and then solve the equation. Subtract 10 on both sides, so b equals -6. Now we have our m and b. We could put that into the slope-intercept form. So our answer is y equals 5x minus 6. Example 4. Write the equation of the line that has the indicated slope and contains the indicated point in slope-intercept form. Very similar to the last problem. You might want to pause the video and work it out, and then come back when you're done. All right, so the -7 represents x, the 8 is y, so it's always x, y, and we have our m, so now replace those three numbers into our formula. So 8 equals -3 times -7 plus b. -3 times -7 is 21. Subtract 21 on both sides, and you get -13. So we have our m and we have our b. Put it into our handy-dandy formula. Y equals -3x minus 13. Okay, example 5. Same directions. We have a point that's 4, 9, and the slope is 2/5. So same thing. Our 4 is x and our 9 is y. And we're going to plug in those three numbers into our handy-dandy formula. Y equals mx plus b. Replace y with 9, m with 2/5, and x with 4. To multiply 2/5 times 4, put a 1 underneath the 4. And then multiply straight across, so 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 1 is 5, so 9 equals 8/5 plus b. Different ways you could solve this equation. You could subtract 8/5 on both sides. Or you could clear fractions. I'm going to clear fractions, but again, it's not the only way of doing it. So to clear fractions, we find the LCD, which is 5, and you multiply each term by 5. So don't forget the b on the right of 5 with a b. The reason we do that is so that the 5s will cancel. And now we don't have any fractions left over. 9 times 5 is 45. So you got 45 equals 8 plus 5b. Subtract 8 on both sides. That gives you 37 equals 5b, and then divide by 5 on both sides to get 37/5. So we're all done. Put the 2/5 in place of m and the 37/5 in place of b. So our final answer is y equals 2/5 x plus 37/5. Okay, example 6, same directions. This time the point is 3, -7, and your slope is -5/8. You should be able to work this one out on your own and then check the solution when you come back. All right, x and y. X is the 3 and -7 is the y. Replace those numbers into our formula. So -7 equals -5/8 times 3 plus b. Put a 1 under the 3. Then multiply. So 5 times 3 is 15, and 8 times 1 is 8. Don't forget the negative in front. This time, clear fractions by multiplying each term by 8. The 8's in the middle will cancel. Now multiply what's left, bring it down. Negative 56 equals negative 15 plus 8b. Add 15 to both sides. Negative 41 equals 8b. Divide by 8 on both sides. So b equals negative 41 over 8. So now replace m with negative 5/8 and b with negative 41 over 8, and y equals mx plus b. So our final answer is y equals negative 5/8 x minus 41 over 8. All right, different directions here. Write the equation of the line that contains the indicated pair of points in slope-intercept form. So we don't have m this time. We have 2 points, 3, 10 and 7, 2. Well, you may or may not know the formula for the slope given 2 points. Does anybody remember it? Yes, it's m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay. So now on your points, label one of them as x1, y1, and the second one as x2, y2. And then replace those numbers into the formula. So you should memorize this formula if you haven't already. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. One of the ways I remember things or I memorize things is by writing it down over and over. That helps me to memorize things. If I simply look at it, I will not memorize it. I have to write it down several times. Okay, put the numbers in. So y2 is 2 and y1 is 10, so 2 minus 10 is in the numerator. The denominator, x2 minus x1, that'll be 7 minus 3. So that gives us negative 8 over 4, which is negative 2. So that's our slope. Our second step is to find b, and you could use either point. You could use the 3, 10 or the 7, 2. And we're going to use y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to use the 3, 10, but you can use the 7, 2. It's just, it'll come out to be the same thing. So replace y with 10, m with negative 2, and x with 3. And then solve for b. 10 equals negative 2 times 3 plus b. That gives us a negative 6. Add 6 to both sides. So b equals 16. We didn't have to clear fractions, right? So now we have our m and our b. Put it into our handy-dandy formula, y equals mx plus b. And it gives us y equals negative 2x plus 16. Example 8. Very similar to the last problem. We have 2 points. Again, we're going to find the slope first. And then we'll use either point. I'll probably use the first point again. And the slope that we get. And we're going to use the y equals mx plus b formula. You might want to pause and work it out, and then come back when you're done. All right, step 1, find the slope. Label the points x1, y1 and x2, y2. put the numbers into their places. So 6 minus 4 on top and 2 minus -1 in the denominator. The numerator is 2 and the denominator 2 minus -1 is 3. So our slope is 2/3. Now we're going to find b. And I'm going to use the -1,4, but if you want to use a 2,6, that's totally fine. So replace the y with 4, the m with 2/3, and the x with -1. 2/3 times -1 is -2/3. Clear fractions, multiply each term by 3. The 3's in the middle will cancel. So we have 4 times 3, which is 12. And in the middle, we still have the -2. And then b times 3 is 3b. Now continue solving for b. Add 2 to both sides. That gives us 14 equals 3b. Divide by 3 on both sides. There we go. b equals 14 over 3. So our answer is y equals 2/3 x plus 14 over 3. Okay, we're going to talk about parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines, two distinct lines. Distinct means they're different. So two different lines are called parallel if their slopes are equal. So here's a picture of two parallel lines. The lines do not intersect. If one of the slopes is 4/3, then the other one is also 4/3. That's just an example of two slopes that are the same. One of them could be 7 and the other one is also 7. If the slopes are equal, they are called parallel. Perpendicular lines, two lines are perpendicular if their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. This means that the slope has opposite signs and are reciprocals of each other. So opposite reciprocals. They have to be different signs. One is positive and one is negative. And the reciprocal means that the numerator and denominator are swapped. They're reversed. You flip them. So here's a picture of two perpendicular lines. The lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. These are just some examples on the side. If one of them is 2/3, then the other one is -3/2. See how the numerator and denominator are swapped? And one of them is positive and the other one's negative. The next example is -5 and 1/5. -5 has a denominator of 1, so that would be 1/5 if you flip it. And then -7/11, if one of the slopes is -7/11, the other one is +7/11. Okay, here's our next example. Write the equation of the line that satisfies the given conditions. Express final equation in slope-intercept form. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. So here's our point, -1, 4. And this time, they're not telling us what the slope is. They're telling us that it's parallel to this line, y equals 3x minus 2. So looking at that line, it's already in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. We just need the number in front of x, which in this case is 3. So since the lines are parallel, the slopes will be the same. The line is already given in slope-intercept form, so you compare it to y equals mx plus b to determine the slope. All right, so y equals mx plus b, so m equals 3. And then we already know the point, negative 1, 4. So now we're going to do what we were doing earlier. The negative 1 is x, the 4 is y, and m is 3. Solve for b. So 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Add 3 to both sides, we get 7. So b is 7 and m is 3. Y equals 3x plus 7. Our next example, same kind of problem. It contains the point 5, 11 and is parallel to the line 3x plus 2y equals 12. So again, it says parallel, that means same slope. The problem here is that our line is not written in slope-intercept form. So since it's not written in slope-intercept form, we will write it in slope-intercept form. So that's our first step. We're going to write it in slope-intercept form. That means get y by itself. So how do we get y by itself? Move the 3x over. So subtract 3x on both sides. So the 3x's cancel on the left-hand side. And we could write 12 minus 3x, but we want the x term written first. So that'll be negative 3x plus 12. So now we have 2y equals negative 3x plus 12. Divide each term by 2. Since we have a negative, we usually put that in the middle of the fraction, negative 3 over 2. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6. The 6 is not really important. What we really want is just the slope. So now we can look at that and say, what is the slope? Well, it's negative 3 over 2. Because we're comparing it to slope-intercept form. We're comparing it to y equals mx plus b. The number in front of x is your slope, m. All right, so we're going to use that slope because it says parallel. Remember, parallel is the same. And we have our point, which is 511. And now we're going to use our handy-dandy formula. Replace the x with 5, the 11 with y, and the m with negative 3 halves. All right, y is 11, m is negative 3 halves, and x is 5. Put a 1 underneath the 5. Multiply across, so that gives us 11 equals negative 15 over 2 plus b. Clear fractions. The 2's will cancel there in the middle. And now solve that equation. 22 equals negative 15 plus 2b. Add 15 to both sides. 37 equals 2b, and then divide by 2. And there we have it. b is 37 over 2. That's our b, and m is negative 3 over 2. So y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 37 over 2. Example 11. Same directions. It contains the point negative 2, negative 3, and is perpendicular to the line x plus 4y equals 6. Perpendicular, not the same, right? Perpendicular is opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal. Parallel, same. Perpendicular, opposite reciprocal. So that's the first issue. The second issue is x plus 4y equals 6. it's not written in slope-intercept form. So what are we going to do because it's not written in slope-intercept form? Right, we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. So x plus 4y equals 6. Subtract x on both sides. So that gives us 4y equals negative x plus 6. And then divide each term by 4. Since there's not a number in front of the x, you could put a 1. There's always a 1, right? In front of any variable, you could always put a 1. The negative we move to the middle of the fraction. So y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3 over 2. So our slope is negative 1/4. Is that the slope that we're going to use? Well, if it said parallel, we would, but it does not say parallel. It says perpendicular. So for perpendicular, we're going to use the opposite reciprocal. Opposite means you got to use the opposite sign, and the reciprocal means you got to flip the fraction. So what is the opposite reciprocal of negative 1/4? Right, 4/1 positive, and 4/1 is 4. So we're going to use m equals 4. So we're not going to use the negative 1/4 at all. We're going to use positive 4. So now we use the negative 2, 3 for your x and y, and your m is 4. Now we could solve for b. So again, y was negative 3, and x is negative 2. M is 4. Solve for b. That gives us negative 3 equals negative 8 plus b. Add 8 to both sides. We get b equals 5. So m is 4 and b equals 5. Use our handy-dandy formula. Y equals 4x plus 5. Example 12. Very similar to the last problem. Again, you should probably pause the video and work it out and come back when you're ready to see the solution. Okay, perpendicular. What does that mean? That means opposite reciprocal. So we're going to take our line and figure out what the slope is. It's not written in slope-intercept form, so what are we going to do? That's right, we're going to write it in slope-intercept form. So 2x minus 5y equals 10. Subtract 2x on both sides first. That gives us negative 5y equals negative 2x plus 10. Then divide each term by negative 5. So y equals 2/5 x minus 2. Remember, the two negatives cancel each other out, so that's why it's a positive 2/5. So since it says perpendicular, we're not going to use 2/5. We're going to use the opposite reciprocal of 2/5. That's right. We're going to use negative 5/2. Opposite, change the sign, and then flip it. And now we're going to use the point negative 3, 8. Use our handy-dandy formula. X is negative 3, y is 8, and m equals negative 5/2. And we're going to solve for b. Put a 1 underneath the negative 3. Multiply across. 8 equals 15/2 plus b. Clear fractions, multiply each term by 2. Reduce. So we have 16 equals 15 plus 2b. Subtract 15 on both sides. And then divide by 2. So you should get with b equals 1/2. All right, we have our m, which is negative 5/2, and our b, which is 1/2. So insert those two numbers into your handy-dandy formula. Y equals negative 5/2x plus 1/2. Negative 5/2 x plus 1/2. Okay, I want to talk about horizontal lines and vertical lines now. A horizontal line has a slope of 0. So make sure you memorize these facts if you don't already know it from a previous lesson. A horizontal line has a slope of 0, and the equation of any horizontal line is y equals b, where b is the y-intercept. So in this example here on the left, it's going through 2 on the y-axis, might be kind of hard to see. So the equation of that line is y equals 2. Any horizontal line is always y equals a number, and it's whatever number it goes through on the y-axis. Here on the right, we have a vertical line. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. You cannot write 0, you must write undefined. The equation of any vertical line is always x equals a, where a is the x-intercept. So in this graph, it looks like it's going through negative 5 on the x-axis. So that would be the equation of this line. X equals negative 5. So a horizontal line, y equals a number. A vertical line, x equals a number. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. All right, example 13. Write the equation of the line that contains the indicated pair of points, 2, 1, and 2, negative 3. All right, we have two different points here. Let's find the slope. What's that formula for slope? Of course you memorized it, right? M equals, right, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The first point is x1, y1. The second one is x2, y2. Insert those numbers into the formula. Negative 3 minus 1 in the numerator, 2 minus 2 in the denominator, negative 4 over 0. And of course, what is negative 4 over 0? Right, undefined. You didn't say 0, did you? Right, you didn't. Okay, good. Right, anytime we have 0 under the denominator or under the fraction bar, it is undefined. If you put in your calculator, it should say undefined also. It could say error depending on your calculator, but usually it says undefined. Math error. I'm putting it into the Casio right now, and it says math error. So definitely not 0. You have to put undefined. Okay? Now, what kind of line has a slope that's undefined? So we're going to write the equation, and that's the question. What type of line has a slope that's undefined? Now that was just on the previous slide. Do you remember which line has a slope that's undefined? Right, a vertical line. Good thing you took notes, right? The equation of a vertical line is always x equals the number, so x equals a, where a is the x-intercept. So we want to know, what is the x-intercept? What is the value where x goes through on this line? So here's one of the points, 2, 1. Now you don't have to graph it, but it'll kind of help out, I think. So there's the first point, right? 2, 1. Is that right? Go over 2 and then up 1. Yeah, that's it. Let's graph the second point. Over 2 and then down 3. So go over 2 and then down 3. Right about there. And we know it's a vertical line, so draw in your vertical line. So we just need the answer. Where does it cross the x-axis? At what number? That's right, 2. So the answer is x equals 2. Now looking at the original problem, does it make sense that it's x equals 2? Yeah, look at the x values. They're both the same. So anytime you see that pattern, when the x values are the same, the answer is going to be x equals that number. If they were both 7s, then it would be x equals 7. Example 14. So we're going to do the steps. We're going to find the slope, but let's look at the problem. Are the x values the same this time? No. Are the y values the same? Yeah. So what do you think the answer is going to be? Right. It's going to be y equals -3. That's a good guess. You're right. Okay, let's do our work though, just to do it so we see that's really true. I'm not just up here telling lies or something like that. Okay. So find the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So -3 minus -3 and 1 minus 4 in the denominator. So that gives us 0 on top and -3 on the bottom. What do we get when we have 0 over a number? That's right, this time it's 0. So only when you have 0 in the denominator is it undefined. If you have 0 on top, it's 0. So now we need to write the equation. What type of line has a slope that is 0? Right, it's a horizontal line. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. So the equation of a horizontal line is y equals b, where b is the y-intercept. So let's plot those 2 points. So let's plot the first point, 4, -3. So go over 4 and then down 3. Right there. Okay, and then 1, -3. So go over 1 and then down 3. About right there. A little bit off. That's okay. Now draw a line through those points. It's going to be horizontal. We already know that. So where does it go through on the y-axis? Right, -3. So the answer is y equals -3. So we didn't really have to do all that work, but we had a really good time doing it. All right, let's do the next problems. Example 15. Yeah, let's not do the work this time, right? 2, 7, and 2, -5. What do you think the answer is? What values are the same? Right, the x. So the answer is x equals 2. How about the next one, example 16? Are the x's the same? No, not this time, right? Are the y's the same? Yeah. So what's our answer? Y equals -8. Yeah, that's not too bad, right? Okay, we've been talking about parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and we've been talking about horizontal lines and vertical lines. Now we're going to put those two concepts together. So here's two parallel lines. The top diagram has two parallel lines that are vertical lines. And how about the bottom image? Those are also two parallel lines, but those are both horizontal lines. That's it. That's all from this slide. So just looking at two vertical lines are parallel, and two horizontal lines are also parallel. Vertical lines always have an equation of x equals. So like in the top image, the graph on the right would be x equals 2. And on the left, it would be x equals -1. In the bottom graph, those are two horizontal lines. What would the top graph be? What would the equation of the line at the top be? Again, horizontal lines are always y equals. It's always whatever it goes through on the y-axis. So the top line, the equation would be y equals 3. The equation on the bottom line, also y equals, looks like y equals -4. We've talked about perpendicular lines. They intersect at a 90-degree angle. Now, if we have one of each, if we have a horizontal line and a vertical line, they are perpendicular to each other. They intersect at a 90-degree angle. What would the equation of the vertical line be? The vertical line would be x equals, looks like x equals -1, right? X equals -1. How about the horizontal line? What would the equation of the horizontal line be? That's right, y equals 4. Good job. Determine the equation of a vertical line through 5, 3. Now you don't have to graph it. It doesn't say to graph, but sometimes a graph helps. So let's plot that point. 5, 3. So go over 5 from the origin and then 3 up. About right there, right where the blue dot is. 5, 3. Over 5 and up 3. Now draw a vertical line. So draw a vertical line. There we go. There's our vertical line. So what is the equation of that vertical line? A vertical line is always x equals. It's always x equals the number it goes through on the x-axis, the x-intercept. So in this case, it's x equals 5. So anytime we want a vertical line, it's always going to be x equals. If we want a horizontal line, it's going to be y equals. And so our answer is x equals 5. Also notice that we wanted x equals, and it's 5, and look at the x value of our point. That's also 5. So if it's x equals, it's going to be x equals 5. If it's going to be y equals, it would be y equals 3. So when you have an x, you take the x value. When you have a y, you take the y value. There's not really any work to show. We just kind of have to understand the concept here. All right, here's our next problem. Determine the equation of a horizontal line through -2, 4. So let's plot that point, -2, 4. So go over 2 to the left and then 4 up. And draw a horizontal line. So is that a x equals or a y equals? It's a horizontal line, right. So it's y equals. And if it's y equals, you take the y value, which is also the number it goes through on the y-axis. So that's right. The answer is y equals 4. Okay, example 19. Determine the equation of a line through -2, -3, and parallel. That means it's the same and parallel to x equals 5. All right, let's first plot that point, -2, -3. So go over 2 to the left and then down 3. Right there. And then x equals 5, so go to x equals 5 and then draw a vertical line. That's a vertical line, right? So now we want a line that goes through the point that we have and it's parallel. So if it's parallel, it runs in the same direction. What kind of line is parallel to a vertical line? Well, that would be another vertical line. So we're going to draw a vertical line through that point. What is the equation of that vertical line? Is it x equals or is it y equals? Right, it's x equals. And it goes through -2 on the x-axis. So once you figure out that it's an x equals, then you can just look at the x value of the point that we have. So our answer is x equals -2. Example 20. Determine the equation of a line through 1, 4 and parallel to y equals -1. Well, let's plot the point 1, 4, but right there. And let's graph y equals -1. So you go to the y-axis, go to -1, and then draw a horizontal line. So we want another line that's parallel to it. That means it runs in the same direction. So parallel, it's the same. So it's going to be another y equals, right? Parallel, same. So if it's y equals, that'll be y equals 4. Yeah, that's it. Y equals 4. So whenever you have an equation like x equals or y equals, if it's parallel, it's always going to be the same variable. So if it says parallel and our equation is x equals, then it'll be another x. If it's a y equals, it'll be another y. Okay, this one says perpendicular. We have a point, -1, 3, and perpendicular to y equals 2. So that's not the same. It's actually going to be the opposite. So y equals 2, that's a horizontal line, and let's plot our point, -1, 3. Let's see, about right there. And y equals 2. So go to y equals 2 and then draw a horizontal line. So perpendicular, does that mean it's going to go in the same direction, or is it going to cross it? Yeah, perpendicular, it has to meet at a 90-degree angle, so it's got to be a vertical line. So what is the equation of that vertical line? Is that a x equals or a y equals? Yeah, it's x equals. So then we take the x value of our point, so the answer is x equals -1. All right, last problem. Determine the equation of a line through 5, 2 and perpendicular to the x-axis. X-axis, that's a little tricky. Well, the x-axis, that's in the middle going left and right. It's actually a horizontal line. The equation of the x-axis is actually y equals 0, right? A horizontal line is always y equals a number. Y equals 1, y equals 2, y equals -1. Well, the x-axis is actually y equals 0. All right, so let's plot our point, 5, 2. And it's perpendicular to the x-axis. The x-axis is a horizontal line, so we want a vertical line. So what's the equation of that vertical line? Right, x equals 5. All right, that's it for this video. I hope it worked out well for you. If you have any comments, please leave some comments for me. I would appreciate any feedback. Have a good day.